Hello, hello, and welcome to a fresh edition of ESPN FC live on our YouTube channel. I'm Alexis Nunes alongside the Shaka Hislop. Shaka, plenty to get to in this one. We're
hmm
going to be talking Europa League first. We're going to be talking about a certain Egyptian king that has extended his stay in Merseyside. We'll get to that in a bit. That probably was the worst kept secret in football so far this year. And then we're going to preview the Classico, which is coming up this weekend on ESPN. So let's start off first, Shaka, with the Europa League. And we have to start off with the clash that was Lyon up against Manchester United now. I want to talk about the fact that this is probably not the worst result for Manchester United. It ended up being 2-2, so they take the draw back to Old Trafford for the second leg. However, it was definitely, I suppose the headlines were stolen by everything that
hmm
was on before the game with a certain goalkeeper in Andre Onana. And because you're president of the Goalkeepers Union, I have to come to you on this little tete-a-tete he had on social media with Nemanja Matic before, another former Manchester United player. And then Onana, pretty much responsible for the two goals that Manchester United
hmm
conceded. Shaka, he didn't exactly cover himself with glory, so much so that Ruben Amorim had to answer some tough questions afterwards in his post-match interview and press conference, answering if he really wants to stick with Onana going forward or if it's time for a change there in between the sticks for Man United. What do you think of the whole scenario?
I thought it was a ridiculous scenario to get drawn into from Andrew Nana's perspective. I mean, there's no winning any kind of back and forth with somebody like Nemanja Matic, given Matic's own record in the game, how much he's achieved, albeit the bulk of those achievements away from Old Trafford. That Nemanja Matic, as we saw, was on the bench for Lyon. So why have that argument? Um, from a goalkeeping perspective, and you're right, I'm a fully paid up member of the Goalkeepers Union. I sympathize with the errors. I understand how easy it is for both those goals to kind of go in. And it's one of those where, as I said on FC last night, if you're having a good time, people excuse it and say, well, I can see where, he was caught out there. When you're not having a good time, and Andrew Nana hasn't, largely since his arrival at Manchester United, these go down as glaring goalkeeping errors. But the whole scenario leans into my feeling around Andrew Nana from the time he arrived at Old Trafford. I thought his start was even rockier than his current form. And
Mm.
I said then that I felt it was because Andrew Nana was brought in and tasked with being the leader for Manchester United, being that vocal, outspoken character that they need, being that person who takes some of the um, difficulties and some of the pressures of being a Manchester United player on their own shoulders. Now, I think that's something you work into. It's not something you just accept and adopt from the time you arrive at a club like Manchester United. And take nothing away from Andrea Onana, Inter Milan are a similarly big club. He
Mm.
understands the pressure that comes with that. And you saw his performances for Inter in getting to the Champions League final and why Manchester United paid the money they did for him. But it's a new challenge in a new league and with a new fan base. And different pressures from the media, different media, and so I felt Andrea Nana needed to build into that. But then you saw it again in the build up to this game around Lyon. Asked for a comment, and I thought his initial comment was pretty sterile.
Yeah.
We're a good team and we have to feel ourselves favorites going into this. And but again, the old adage, you do not give the opposition anything to go on. And Nemanja Matic, to his credit, kind of understanding that, jumped on it and forced this kind of back and forth with Andrew Nana. And then as a result, well, I'm not saying the back and forth caused the errors, but it certainly added to the criticism of the errors and added to the pressure that's now on Andrea Nana. And for me, again, just from a goalkeeping perspective, from a purely Andrew Onana perspective. So don't say anything. You while nobody at Manchester United, be it Bruno Fernandes as captain or anybody else, is willing to kind of stick their neck out and speak to the media or say anything about it, you don't have to. You worry about you.
Mm.
Get your game in order first, and then you can take on some of those pressures. I just don't think he's there yet in terms of his own standing at Old Trafford.
You just knew that the minute he had a clap back, that you were almost writing it down that something was going to go wrong and something was going
Mm.
to make the camera keep panning to Nemanja Matic on the bench, and that's exactly what they did for the entire night. But let me ask you this too, because now it's not just this week that he's kind of set off conversations on the Manchester
Hmm.
United fan base, and look, 99.9% of the Manchester United fan base are not ex or current professional footballers, myself included. I know you may have some questioning around that. But Shaka, you were a goalkeeper. So you know
Hmm.
exactly technically what you're looking for a goalkeeper from Manchester United. Watching Andre Onana now, because this isn't his first season at United. He came under Eric Ten Hag. Now he's getting used to life under Ruben Amorim. He still is their number one. He still is quite young. He still is a talented keeper. We're not doubting that. But is he the one Manchester United need? Because from the end of last season, leading into pretty much a year now. I remember going to Old Trafford, having an interview with Andre Onana, literally at this time this month, because I came back early from Carnival just to do it. And yes, and that's a big sacrifice that we make in the
Yeah,
Caribbean.
well,
But anything to speak to Andre Onana. And I remember I was asking him about how he's dealing with the pressures of Man United. Constantly, everyone chirping in his ear saying, "You're not good enough. You're making too many mistakes." Here we are, a year on, still looking at what, in my opinion, has been a bit too many mistakes that you wouldn't
hmm
really expect from a Manchester United number one. And look, people can say that this is still not the best Manchester United team, so the defense probably is not helping him either. But Shaka, for you, does he have what it takes to go forward? If you're Ruben Amorim, now that we're edging closer to the summer transfer window, are you thinking of probably adding to that position?
let me answer that question this way. It depends on what Manchester United we're talking about. If we're talking about Manchester United, a team sitting, where are they? 13th in the Premier League right now? Somewhere between 13th and 15th. I can't remember exactly. If we are talking about a team if we are talking about a team that are bottom half of the Premier League, absolutely. Andrea Nana fits the bill, and that
Mm,
I don't challenge that at all. If we're talking about a team that's competing at the top four of the Premier League, that wants to go deep in the Champions League, then the short answer to that question is no. But we haven't seen that version of Manchester United for a very long time. Um, so take your pick. Now, while I kind of give Manchester United's position in the league table, there's no question that a major overhaul of that squad needs to be done.
mm,
I don't think the goalkeeping position is top of that list or anywhere near top of that list. I was sitting watching Manchester United in this game yesterday and thinking that if Manchester United wanted to be competing consistently at the top end of the Premier League table, if they wanted to be competing consistently in the latter stages of the Champions League, they need a solid 10, 11 players. And I don't say that lightly, where because you need not just a starting 11, but you need a certain depth of that squad to compete consistently in all those different competitions. And Manchester United, as we sit right now, are so far away from that. Let's be honest, you keep Bruno Fernandes, Kobe Menu, uh, I'm not sure Diallo stays in. I'm not sure who else really is you say, yep, he's going to be he's worthy of playing quarterfinals, semifinals of a Champions League. And if
mm.
you're saying that no, you need a squad of, let's say, 18 players, 18, 20 players. Now all of a sudden we're talking 15, 17 players to bring in. I'm not sure Manchester United have that money. And again, to your question and the concerns around Andrea Nana, I'm not sure whether the goalkeeping position or how high in that 15, 17 goalkeeper becomes, or goalkeeper, the goalkeeping position starts to figure.
I just want somebody in life to have my back like you have goalkeepers back, Shaka, because it truly is amazing. Well, let me see if you have defenders' backs now or managers' backs, because one other thing that was brought up, especially after watching the game yesterday against Lyon, and it's something that Ruben Amorim has been doing quite a bit, it's for the first time, I want to say maybe this season or at least this year, that the back line looked quite solid. They looked defensively solid
Mhm.
for majority of the game. So when Manchester United were given the lead through Joshua Zirkzee, after that we saw Ruben Amorim starting to make some changes, namely taking off a Harry Maguire, which has been questioned by some people. Do you have any issue with that? Because he has been taking off Harry Maguire when he does bring a certain stability to what has been a backline that hasn't been stable, especially with the likes of Lisandro Martinez not there either.
I think the one criticism around that substitution of Harry Maguire, and I think I'm right in saying that substitution actually came before the Zirkzee goal.
Yeah.
It was a like for like. You're 1-1 away from home, and you go Harry Maguire for Lindelof. That for me doesn't change anything. If you want to defend the 1-1 and take that draw back to Old Trafford, and you want to bring on another defender to shore things up, then do that. Then sacrifice a midfielder. If you want to go for the win and you want to take off Harry Maguire, then bring on an attacking player, whether it's a midfielder or a striker. But Maguire for Lindelof, just much of a muchness for me. Six of one, half dozen of the other. Unless you're saying that Harry Maguire can't play 90 minutes. Which I mean, Harry Maguire kind of stays on when you're behind and they throw him up front. So the suggestion that Harry Maguire can't play 90 minutes, again, for me, just doesn't ring true in that regard. So for me, it was a little confusing. I didn't know what to make of it. I didn't know what the signal was. What are we going for here? Now, again, on the one hand, if you want to say we'll take a 1-1, truth be told, away from home, going into a European game or be the Europa League, you probably take a draw away from home. And 1-1 might seem a good result. 2-2, for all our criticism of Andrew Onana and Manchester United in general, 2-2 is a good result to take back to Old Trafford. But to your question, the substitutions for me just are a little bit confusing.
Well, I think Ruben Amorim is still trying to find out exactly what his best 11 or what his best second 11 is. Just quick last one, I suppose, to pay off on Manchester United. From what you saw from both sides in this first leg, how do you see the second leg going then? Because people were asking where the goals would come from for Manchester United. We saw a little bit of a redemption there for Joshua Zirkzee in scoring what would have been a much needed goal for him too. They are at Old Trafford. Is it advantage United, or do you see Lyon come in there with a lot more fight?
No, I think it's advantage Manchester United. I thought, truth be told, Manchester United were the better team over the 90 minutes in France, and so going back home, I think Manchester United will again show that they're the better team. The question, and you're right, is who starts up front. Right now, I think Joshua Zirkzee, just because he scored and probably
Yeah.
deserved that, and in all honesty, Rasmus Højlund didn't do an awful lot. As a matter of fact, I think a lot of his performance kind of highlighted a real lack of confidence, a lack of goal scoring confidence from Højlund. So as a result, well, once again, I'm not sure that Joshua Zirkzee is the answer for Manchester United. And again, that comes down to, are we talking Manchester United, bottom half of the table, or Manchester United who have aspirations to be competing for league titles? I think Zirkzee has to be given the nod at the least to start in the second leg.
All right. Well, elsewhere in the Europa League, there was another draw. Tottenham Hotspur.
Mhm.
Tottenham Hotspur under some pressure, mainly their manager Ange Postecoglou to get glory somewhere in the world, and they're definitely throwing a lot of coins into the basket of the Europa League. They were up against Frankfurt. Frankfurt definitely a formidable opponent. This was at home for Spurs, Shaka. So I think a lot of fans were expecting that Spurs would give it a bit more to get more of the advantage before they head on over to Germany. How do you feel it went? Do you feel like they did enough to win the game?
They certainly had chances. Bergval hit junction of post and crossbar. Had enough chances to win the game. But Eintracht Frankfurt showed themselves to be a formidable opponent. Eintracht is sitting third in the Bundesliga, and that's no accident. That's no lean feet, given the top two of Bayern Munich and Bayer Leverkusen. So let's be honest, Leverkusen are a decent outfit. But you're right. I think there's a whole lot more pressure on Spurs, more to the point, and Postecoglou around the Europa League or winning the Europa League than there is around Ruben Amorim and Manchester United. You just feel that if Spurs do not win this competition, there's absolutely no way that Postecoglou will be Spurs manager come the start of next season. Truth be told, as we sit, even if they do win the competition, uh, I'm still finding it a difficult proposition. I think there's more reason for Postecoglou not to be Spurs manager come the start of next season than there is for him staying, and that's even with them
Mm.
winning the Europa League. And so maybe they should have made more of the first leg to that point at home, but take nothing away from Eintracht Frankfurt. Now going away, I I just feel Eintracht Frankfurt are easily the favourites in this one. But you're right. All the eggs are in this basket for both Spurs and in particular Postecoglou.
Do you ever see a situation where maybe Frankfurt, being at home, feeling the pressure that they will need to uh, get on the front foot there, that they will need to be the ones to probably go and attack more, that opens them up, that maybe that's something that Spurs can capitalize on?
Well, that's very optimistic from a Spurs perspective, if that's what you're hoping for. As I said, of course, I think Eintracht Frankfurt will be more open, will be more on the front foot. They're the better team, and they're at home, so you'd expect nothing less. But let me put it there, and maybe that does open up more room for Spurs in attacking Eintracht Frankfurt, but over the course of the 90 minutes in the first leg, I can't remember Dominic Solanke having a clear-cut chance. This
Mm.
is Spurs' out-and-out striker. This is the player that Spurs spent 60 million for. And I cannot remember Dominic Solanke having a clear-cut chance in that game. Roll the clock back a week, Spurs against Chelsea. I think I'm right in saying that Solanke didn't have a touch inside the Chelsea box. Again, this is Spurs' out and out striker. This is a player they paid 60 million for. He didn't, never mind have a chance. He didn't have a touch inside Chelsea's box. Now that for me, and which is why I say I can't I can make a stronger argument for Postecoglou not being there, regardless of how this Europa League in its entirety goes for Spurs. That just tactically, that's just not good enough. If you not even getting your striker on the ball in attacking positions, then I'm not sure how you kind of spin this to make it seem like it's good enough or there's anything there to build on. So again, to your question, Alexis, well, I guess maybe if you're really a pro Spurs fan here and you're looking for something to cling on, you can say maybe we're a better counter-attacking team, maybe we're better on the road. But over the course of 90 minutes, I'm not sure that Spurs has given their fans, even their most ardent fans, a whole lot to hang on to.
Oh man, I do love me some Ange Postecoglou, but I mean now he's been talking about the potential mole that's within the dressing room or within the club that's leaking team news before it gets out. You just feel like the writing is on the
Yeah, the
wall.
walls are closing in.
Yeah, the walls
When
are
you see
closing.
that, the walls are just closing in. Yeah, yeah, I'm with
The
you.
environment,
And I'm like you. I like
yeah.
Postecoglou. I really do. But it's that room is just getting smaller and smaller by the minute.